In my previous videos about the ongoing story of the California wildfires, I shared information about multiple explosions that were seen and heard before and after the fires rapidly spread across Los Angeles. I also provided information about the possible causes of the explosions. One possibility is that 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate disappeared once it arrived by train from Wyoming to California. This substance can be used as an explosive, as it has been in numerous incidents in the past. It went missing in Saltdale, California, approximately 90 miles from Los Angeles, and the federal government reported that they cannot retrieve it. Still, they insisted that it does not pose as a terroristic threat to the people of California. How can they be so sure about that if they supposedly have no idea where 60,000 pounds of this dangerous substance is located? I also revealed that California's government spends millions of dollars yearly on agencies like the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, which specializes in cloud seeding, which most of you know as weather manipulation. This process artificially alters the climate, which could lead to devastating abnormal weather conditions in California. So you know how they like to blame climate change for these types of events, right? But most of these events have occurred because the weather has been previously manipulated by orders from the government. And by the way, this weather manipulation has been happening in every state of America for over 70 years now. Watch the latest video on my channel if you would like to know more about what I discovered in my research on these topics, because in this video, I will provide follow-up information on a few things I pointed out in that video. Before we cover the mysterious blue vehicle that outlasted everything around it, which was eerily similar to the Maui wildfires, I want to show you a clip of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at the White House for an LA wildfire briefing that happened a few days ago. This briefing was broadcast live and featured California's governor and LA's mayor via Zoom call displayed on the screen beside Biden and Harris. Listen closely as Jim Carrey describes the scene. I will caption some of his words and phrases for obvious reasons.
Thank you. You know, one of the things that you and I have done, Dan, is we not only have to build back, we have to build back better. There are certain things we can do to prevent things from being, if it's the same thing occurred, from as much damage occurring. And that costs money, but it also saves money. There is climate change. There is climate change. This is part of it, and we have to deal with it. And the other thing is that, you know, when I was with you, Gov, and we were looking around the state, it looked to me as I traveled when I was out with you in California, what it reminded me of more of a war scene where you had certain targets that were bombarded, where artillery was just blew them up. With no rhyme or reason. In other words, you'd have this fire going crazy and burning everything down and 3 houses being fine. Yeah. Nothing's happening. Or neighborhoods that were still green. I mean, still green. And next to a place that, for example, you know, we're just looking at a Secret Service house that was out there. You know, all the vehicles are melted. Yet the house next door still has green shrubbery on it. And, you know, the house is fine. There's only, I think, 4 or 5 houses in that 200, you know, is in the Pasadena area. But my generic point is, it's almost like it's a battle scene.
But, you know, Mr. President, we saw that in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida with hurricanes.
Yeah.
This is also the nature of, to your point, this changing climate, these extreme weather conditions. Not only are they volatile and devastating, but there is no method necessarily to the impact in terms of the predictability of where it might land if we're talking about a hurricane or a wildfire.
Yeah, Kamala Harris had to step in because apparently he was describing the scene in Los Angeles in too much detail. What's even more disturbing is that they both inadvertently admit that in each event that has occurred in America, where the weather is to blame for devastating particular areas and the lives of many Americans, those places and people were targeted by the use of artillery. If we use the comments made by Biden himself in the context in which he used them. Some may say Biden misspoke or made a lousy comparison. Still, I challenge that by referring you back to his comment that it looked like a war scene and that he found it odd that some parts of LA were still standing. At the same time, their neighboring structures and vegetation were burnt to ashes, alluding to the point that some places looked targeted. And I agree, this was a targeted event. Even California's governor admitted to pre-positioning everyone from the National Guard, fire engines, helicopters, dozers, and water tenders 2 days before the wildfire started.
Thousands of National Guard men and women that have been on here. We pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event. So with respect to the future vice president.
Wait a minute, but how would they know that a wildfire was about to start in the winter month of January when the so-called wildfire season is over? Look, and if they somehow knew beforehand, why were their local news meteorologists not informing people of hazardous dry wind conditions that could cause a wildfire? And speaking of MSM, did you know that NBC News had cameras conveniently placed in the area where the wildfires began? Here's a clip of their video discussing the start of the wildfire. Listen closely to what is said and pay attention to everything they display.
It all began 4 days ago when Los Angeles residents might have expected a typically beautiful Tuesday in their city. But that morning was different. Dry winds were blowing harder than almost anyone could remember. So around 10:30 a.m., when a small fire broke out along a bushy hillside near a state park, those winds quickly fanned the flames.
Wait a minute, let's play that part one more time.
Dry winds were blowing harder than almost anyone could remember. So around 10:30 a.m., when a small fire broke out along a bushy hillside near a state park, those winds quickly fanned the flames.
Did you notice that the breeze in the trees does not indicate 40 to 100 mile per hour winds, as the mainstream media news reporters later claimed after the fire spread?
LA firefighters got word on their internal radio channel.
Wait, 40 to 100 mile per hour winds, which you'll hear the reporter later on in the video call hurricane-like winds, would not allow this guy to stand on top of a building holding what appears to be his phone without being strapped down by safety equipment, right?
This has the potential for 200 plus acres in the next 20 minutes. We have a potential for structures being threatened in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, here we go. This part here is critical to note because the news and LA officials would later on make it seem as if the small fire could not be contained at this point. And this is before the fire spread rapidly due to high gust winds. At this point, firefighters could drop gallons of water on the fire from their helicopters within this area, right? Remember? Especially since California's governor said they had already been pre-positioned 2 days before this event began.
Thousands of National Guard men and women that have been on here. We pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event.
Check. So let's continue.
The fire started to burn through one of the wealthiest and most beautiful neighborhoods in the country, the Pacific Palisades.
I saw when the fire first started, so I rushed over here to pack my belongings, and I got the evacuation orders.
Okay, you saw the fire start and mentioned that you rushed over there and packed your belongings and got the evacuation orders. However, since you claimed to have seen the fire start, you failed to mention that you alerted emergency services. If you saw the fire start, that would be the most important thing to say. Otherwise, how would you know that was the initial start of a fire?
Barely 2 hours after the fire broke out, residents began fleeing by car, but some got stuck in their tracks.
The homeowners are saying they're unable to access any exit routes. There's fire on both sides of the roads.
Amid the growing chaos, many abandoned their cars in the gridlocked traffic. Responding fire crews used a bulldozer to clear a path.
So while they were busy putting out fires, the firefighters also had to act like police officers to stop traffic from approaching particular areas that were allegedly blocked by the fires. You would think that the police would already be on the scene to direct traffic and block areas that the public could not access. But in these clips, LA police are nowhere near to be found.
Crucial minutes ticked by. By 4 p.m., the monstrous fire had gathered even more strength, devouring homes.
Over behind us on Enchanted Way, there's probably 4 homes that were lost. I could see from the roof, I could see a structure on fire, so.
Firefighters tried to attack the flames with airdrops by helicopter as the winds kept driving the fire forward.
Really? Where were these airdrops from helicopters when the fires initially started? If they could be in the air at this point, they could have been in the air at the beginning stage of this fire before it began to spread. It's one of the wealthiest areas in the country, right? This sounds like someone wanted this to happen, especially since the governor mentioned how they were pre-positioned 2 days before it happened, meaning that all resources would have been focusing on this one location in LA County if they genuinely wanted to save it and prevent it from spreading into targeted areas. But obviously, someone wants LA to be different entirely at the public's cost.
Toppling trees and severing power lines.
The only thing I heard above that wind was the power lines popping.
By 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the Palisades fire had already burned more than 1,200 acres and forced the evacuation of thousands.
We were here not too long ago.
California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency.
It's incredibly important that we heed the warnings, the calls, that we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination.
The governor was right. Just as he and his team were speaking, another fire had broken out in Altadena, a small foothill community to the east of the Palisades. Officials would name it the Eaton Fire, after a canyon near its origin.
Which is your house?
Yeah, this is our house. Backyard's on fire. I'm out of here.
That new fire blew up rapidly in the darkness, expanding its scale. As the night wore on, the hurricane-force winds reached upwards of 75, even 100 miles per hour, making it unsafe for those helicopters to fly.
We're trying to surround the fire, break it up into different divisions, so geographically we can orchestrate an effective attack on it.
On Wednesday morning, plumes of smoke rose out of the canyon and blotted out the sun. The Palisades fire had continued its march west, scorching 5,000 acres in its path.
You can see these coastal beachfront homes just erupting in flames.
An estimated 1,000 structures had been razed by the fire. Cars, schools, churches, communities, gone.
It's devastating. It is apocalyptic. This does not feel real.
More than 7,000 firefighters and emergency personnel had been deployed across the region since the fires began, saving who and what they could. Fighting walls of fire, often on foot, and sometimes running low on water.
Out of every fire hydrant you've seen, what have you found?
Right now, we're finding most of them are down or low pressure.
A new fire took hold in the Hollywood Hills. Officials dubbed it the Sunset Fire and ordered people to evacuate. There was panic and gridlock on Sunset Boulevard as the fire pressed close to the Hollywood Bowl. And then a sound of hope people didn't know they'd been waiting for. Choppers in the air.
What? A sound of hope people didn't know they'd been waiting for? The only reason they wouldn't be waiting for that hope is because most of their houses were already ashes at this point. Their hope started once the fire started. You know, hoping that their government would take care of the problem before it turned the corner and became what we all see it become.
Here, at least the winds had died down, giving firefighters a fighting chance. In fact, as the sun rose Thursday over Los Angeles, the winds remained calmer. Cal Fire's Chief Brent Pasqua.
So this morning is a night and day difference from the last 2 days. I believe if it stays like this, we can actually turn a corner on these fires.
Firefighters were making significant headway on the Sunset Fire in the Hollywood Hills, and officials lifted evacuation orders there. As they gathered with reporters, they revealed how much had been lost so far in places like Altadena.
The Eaton fire remains estimated to be 10,600 acres, and we have 0% containment.
Closer to the coast, the Palisades fire burned more than 17,000 acres. The air was so toxic, schools throughout the region were closed. Life here is unrecognizable.
We can smell all of the chemicals and things that were inside these properties that were burning. It's just complete devastation, but home after home after home destroyed.
Early in the afternoon, television viewers witnessed a new disaster in the making. Flames from the Eaton fire were lapping at the edges of the iconic Mount Wilson Observatory. It's also a vital communications link, housing broadcast towers for the entire Los Angeles area. A KNBC engineer was inside that building, offering a lesson in competence and cool-headedness.
We've been preparing for this for a couple days now. We're in a good place up here. We've got a lot of assets that rolled in early this morning in preparation for what's happening now.
Hours later, the fire had retreated. Late Thursday, authorities imposed a curfew on the two largest evacuation zones to prevent looting and called in the California National Guard to assist. But fire, of course, remained the biggest threat, and sure enough, another one broke out. The Kenneth Fire in Bell Canyon. Evacuation orders went out.
We keep seeing these fires pop up in different places. If you're told to evacuate, then get the hell out.
Listen, so it's not about the dry air winds starting the fire, because they even admitted that the winds dissipated, which led them to allegedly fight the fires in the air again. So, since other fires started in different areas in LA, and there was no wind to cause them to spread, and it did anyway, then what is the cause of these wildfires? This situation cannot be attributed to climate change or Mother Nature, as random wildfires would not ignite and spread across thousands of acres under normal winter weather conditions. So what is it?
And tonight, the cause of all these fires remains under investigation. As Los Angeles neighborhoods continue to burn, people are bracing for whatever may come next.
Although NBC's report initially discussed the possible causes of the wildfires, it concluded that the cause is still under investigation. This indicates that neither the news outlets nor LA officials know what truly caused the wildfires, and they hope you'll never figure it out. Millions of people know this doesn't add up, especially when the news media is caught hovering over an area they claim shouldn't have been damaged by the wildfires. Still, they were, and they inadvertently broadcasted the evidence live of particular houses burned down, while several other houses surrounding them remained.
Right here, we're looking into the Thousand Oaks area. Actually, yeah, this is the north end of the Thousand Oaks area. Looking for any damage in here, but it doesn't look like fire got into this area. This is to the, actually right up the edge there. It's a little bit of fire came down. Oh, we got a house right there. And multiple houses down here in Oak Park. You see right there. It's the ones that back up to the interface. That's 12 o'clock. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, I see it now. It's Lindero Canyon. I see there. So, yeah, trying to get oriented here from so high up and very little visibility outward to where I can get my references. But you can see here the damage. Houses on either side, still standing, but the one right there is completely gone, and it got into these houses in the back. They got that one house right there. In fact, that's the one we were watching last night. Yeah, we were watching this one last night.
Yeah, this may seem confusing at first, but you know that something doesn't feel right about the situation. Why would certain houses be burned down while the ones directly beside and around them remained untouched? Homeowners wouldn't just burn down their own homes for insurance purposes, especially since homeowners' insurance companies left California last September. So what could be the reasons these houses were specifically targeted? All you can do is look at those who are in high positions of power, like Beavis and Butthead, for example. They would know what's going on for sure, but they are attempting to control the narrative by combating what they call misinformation and disinformation, by utilizing the mainstream news media, by utilizing MSM, or mainstream news media, to carry out their deceitful propaganda.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And that's just a point of personal privilege that I share that with you, because it infects real people that are out there, people I meet every single day, people the mayor's been meeting with, and they're having conversations that are not the typical conversations you'd have at this time, and you wonder where this stuff comes from, and it's very damaging as well. But we're here to get the job done.
The governor of California has requested the president's assistance in addressing the misinformation and disinformation regarding the wildfires in California. However, what specific information are they considering to be misleading or false?
A number of years, the Negro passengers on the city bus lines of Montgomery have been humiliated, intimidated, and face threats on this bus line.
Researchers gather all available data and separate credible sources from misinformation, and we present our evidence unbiasedly to the public. This story of Rosa Parks intrigued us, so we investigated its credibility because we were familiar with what we were told about it. However, we realized that a lot of information deemed as fact is simply not true.
A lot of truth has been hidden for various reasons. We also discovered why it was important for certain people to present the Rosa Parks story in a particular way, rather than how it actually happened.
For example, the picture you see of Rosa Parks being fingerprinted by an officer was taken several months after she was arrested and bailed out of jail.
Your folks, that's what they would say to some of the leaders, started this, or they're willing to do it and they're not complaining, so why would you be protesting against something that the people who are actually experiencing this tradition or custom make no complaints?
All of this was a test to see how the public will react by way of the press. It gets deeper.
We're willing to accept death
But we're going to keep coming until we can ride from anywhere in the South, any place else in the South, without anybody making any comments, just as American citizens.
It's unfortunate that people didn't realize what was happening during that time in Alabama and everywhere else.
For someone who didn't have any kids, why did they choose Rosa Parks as the mother of the civil rights movement?
We answered this and more related questions in this detailed documentary to finally put an end to all of the lies we were told.
In my previous video, I showcased a clip of the LA Fire Department discovering a hidden underground storage facility. This facility contained thousands of lithium batteries, which are highly dangerous because they can explode like a war zone if their temperatures rise sufficiently, especially during a California wildfire.
With the hazmat, we have found a underground lithium battery storage plant for bicycle batteries that has posed a huge hazard in that area. We are working with the hazmat teams to keep that contained. So a lot of that is just very dangerous. As you just heard, the air quality in some of that area is still very, very high and dangerous.
It's important to note that all electric vehicles, including Teslas, are powered by lithium-ion batteries. This is why Tesla requires customers to sign paperwork, restricting them from handling the batteries themselves if issues arise. Instead, Tesla mandates that only certified Tesla technicians be permitted to inspect the vehicle. On New Year's Day 2025, an active duty U.S. Army soldier used a Tesla Cybertruck as a weapon in a domestic terroristic attack outside the front entrance of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Reports indicate that he was the driver of the Cybertruck and that he took his own life before the vehicle exploded, injuring 7 other people nearby. Many people believe that this was a message to the incoming president, Donald Trump, who is considered to be an ally of the people and opposes the regime. However, I believe that this Army soldier did not act alone. MKUltra is an actual program, and soldiers, along with other individuals associated with the government, such as those in secret societies around the world, are often used to carry out the objectives of someone operating in the background as a dictator. I mention this because these electronic vehicles can easily become a problem for people in anything close to them if they are exposed to intense heat. This could be another reason why LA residents heard explosions before and after the wildfires began. Keep in mind that these vehicles are electronic, which means that they can be vulnerable to hacking. An unauthorized individual can access the vehicle's computer system and insert a code that causes the vehicle to behave erratically or even turn into a weapon. This is particularly concerning since the steering columns of these vehicles are not mechanically connected to the wheels. This vulnerability is one reason why Elon Musk was not a fan of the movie Leave the World Behind, as it highlights the potential risk associated with these vehicles with self-driving capabilities by computer software. Another concerning issue regarding lithium batteries stored in underground facilities is the existence of nearly 100 underground tunnels beneath Los Angeles, which I discussed in my previous video. Although reports suggest that these tunnels are abandoned and no longer in use, millions of others, including me, know of substantial evidence that indicates otherwise. We know that these underground tunnels are still operational and serve as hiding places for many of LA's elites, including California government officials, politicians, teachers, professors, actors and actresses, popular entertainers, and law enforcement officials as they conceal their wrongdoings. This topic is very sensitive, so I will keep the details brief. In my previous video, I presented evidence linking a pedo ring to underground facilities beneath an old preschool in Los Angeles. It's clear what implications this has, so I won't elaborate further. The LA government closed all criminal cases related to this issue in the 1980s, letting you know that they have been corrupt for over 40 years. To prevent any damaging evidence from coming to light, the preschool was demolished in 1990. This situation continues to be relevant today. According to a video from a former FBI agent, which I highlighted in my previous video, individuals who are highly respected in the public eye have been significantly involved. I also pointed out how closely this situation is related to Sean Combs and his current circumstances. It's important to note that the United States has the highest number of these pedo rings, which is why many so-called celebrities are aware of what is happening, but are too frightened to speak out. The government and its affiliates are often the primary co-conspirators in these cases. Just recently, comedian Eddie Griffin spoke about this and mentioned a few things I have covered concerning them burning up the evidence of the California wildfires.
Hello and welcome to another installment of NNN, where we give it to you straight, no chasing. Let's get right to it. LA is on fire. Now, a lot of people saying it's to cover up the pet trail, and all of a sudden the water ain't working. And hold on, 60% of the water rights is owned by this couple. What's their name? Wonderful. Yeah, the wonderful company is owned by this husband and wife team. They own pistachio, they own Fiji water. I stopped drinking any of that around the motherfucker go. Let them motherfuckers go broke. Feeding the pistachios and the almonds all that goddamn water. Meanwhile, people's houses burning down, dying of thirst and shit. All these sons of and the regulators who allowed them motherfuckers to own 60% of the goddamn water. Fire them motherfuckers too, goddammit. What the fuck is y'all problem? That is public water. We built the dam that's holding that water and all that with taxpayers' dollars. How the fuck y'all gonna sign it over to this goddamn couple? Sons of. Let's pray for the motherfuckers out there that houses is burning down and unless they pet them. Let them burn. Cause I know what you're doing. You're burning the evidence up, sons of. But we still gonna catch you. And let somebody do some research. In the rich neighborhoods, who had already left their house and knew that the fire was coming?
Millions of people said that the California wildfires looked like a movie and were very similar to those in Maui, Hawaii. In Maui, there was total loss except for houses with blue roofs. But why did Mother Nature disregard these houses? That doesn't sound natural, does it?
Hey, aloha guys, Eric West here, HawaiiRealEstate.org. I'm here next to the infamous blue umbrellas. How these things survived the fire, I have absolutely no idea. Because what's crazy is here you have completely intact umbrella. However, right behind me, check this out. You have melted steel. So temperatures were high enough right here to melt this steel, obviously char this wood, and yet this entire bank of umbrellas basically remains intact. And next to the umbrellas, you have this wood art that's still perfectly fine. Even this wood railing right here. Maybe made out of teak, I don't know, but it's still looking great. Even this fabric right here, still intact, but yet literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm gonna say 12 feet away. you've got that. I don't know how that's physically possible. In the comments, let me know what you think. How is that how can that happen? How is it possible? I mean, okay, fire retardant umbrellas, I get it. Okay, maybe. But wood, fabric, wood here. And the irony of it is, a fire extinguisher. You can't make this stuff up.
Before the Maui wildfires began, many people online in that part of Hawaii were discussing how they witnessed green laser-like beams from drones patrolling the skies of Maui, almost as if they were looking for something or someone. Haven't people online in particular areas of America complained about seeing strange drones in the sky recently? All right, now, listen. Some of you may have heard about the potential use of laser beams by the military, which the government controls. This weapon can damage various targets, including buildings and people. Listen closely. This weapon exists, but has been classified information for quite some time. Recently, whistleblowers leaked this information to the public, leading many to associate it with what some consider natural disasters. It is known as a direct energy weapon, commonly called DEW. Direct energy weapons indeed can incinerate buildings or houses with precision, allowing them to bypass other structures and focus on specific targets. For DEWs to achieve this level of accuracy, they must first map out the area designated for targeting before executing their mission. To facilitate this, the government instructs the military to utilize a geospatial array to scan regions and map the terrain, ensuring the DEW can be programmed for optimal targeting. This explains why people in Maui observed green lasers scanning the terrain shortly before the wildfires began. Now, I'm not claiming that the same situation occurred in California, but it probably did. If direct energy weapons had indeed been used, anything painted blue from cars to buildings could have been overlooked. We've heard similar stories regarding these past wildfires in California and even Maui, Hawaii. Despite what some third-party fact-checking websites may say, the theory about the color blue is valid. The CEO of Facebook has stated that these platforms have been directed to promote narratives that manipulate public perception in favor of specific individuals or political agendas.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like. And basically, it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not gonna take down humor and satire. We're not gonna take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess. I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating, coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
It's also worth noting here that California's governor owns a $9.1 million home in Harris Bay. And guess what color the roof is painted? Blue.
We've all seen the devastation these fires have caused, and that includes Associated Press photographers who've documented the horrors from the front lines. One photo especially captured the hearts of many, and it was a VW van, the car marked by time, but still standing.
The van that you see behind me is called Azul by its owner. It's just a splash of color among, a sea of gray devastation. It also seems to have struck a chord with people. I think it gives people a little bit of hope.
Take a look at some of these images from the photographers. Incredible images of raw emotion and tragedy. The photographers managing their own safety and emotion as well as capturing all of those moments for us to see after it's all over.
Still so hard to process all of that loss.
It's the photo that's become a symbol of hope amid LA's devastating wildfires. This Malibu neighborhood was just about entirely wiped out, yet amid the rubble, a lone bright blue Volkswagen van from the 1970s somehow remains virtually untouched. The van belongs to surfboard designer Megan Weintraub, who was surfing with friends in Malibu just before the fire laid waste to the county. Megan parked the 1977 VW Type 2 van on the side of the road, little realizing the horror that was about to hit. Look at the photo. Nearly everything is reduced to rubble, except for that disco-era van.
When scanning the terrain prior to their alleged wildfire mission, the array detects the color of specific objects based on their frequencies. It's important to understand that direct energy weapons are not only lasers, they also include millimeter waves and microwaves. More about that in a second. Each shade of light has its own frequency, meaning that these wavelengths will interact differently with various colors of light. For example, a tattoo artist uses different wavelengths to remove multiple colors from a tattoo on a person's skin. This illustrates how color is related to the quality of light, with each color having its own unique frequency. Regarding the California wildfires, the reason the color blue was not targeted could be connected to the frequency associated with that color, which is 6.66. During my previous live stream on this topic, I played a video of a woman in California that exposed how some houses that were not burnt down by the California wildfires did not have smart meters attached to their homes. I'll play that video to refresh your memory.
So I talked to the owner of this house right here in Pasadena. I talked to the owner. The owner does not have a smart meter on this house, on the front part of his house. There's no smart meter. No smart meter. So the house did not burn. The back house is the part of the house that had the smart meter, and everything in the back of his house is burnt. No smart meter, smart meter. No smart meter, nothing. Nothing's burned. Well, the trees, but the house state is perfectly fine. But the back house is completely gone, and that's the one with the smart meter.
Okay, now, here's another video featuring a California resident discussing her observations regarding smart meters on people's homes. She describes how the following day after the wildfires in her area, individuals with white vehicles with black tinted windows were seen outside removing these smart meters from houses that had burnt down and replaced them with black boxes.
So what was so interesting, that was when I was at my sister's house, the houses across the street nothing was wrong with the houses across the street. And then both houses on the back side, like on the side kind of towards the back, that's where they put the smart meters. So I realized that the only houses that had the smart meters were the ones where the smart meters were installed on the side, I guess, back of the house. So if they can't get to your regular gas line or your regular electrical line or whatever they're trying to read, then they put the smart meters there so they don't have to come out to check them. Well, it just seems to me that while I was standing there and the two houses across the street from my sister's house literally get set on fire at the same time when there's no fire. When there's no fire. And then I was like, you know what, there gotta be something to this. So then I woke up really early in the morning, and then I noticed nothing but white cars with blacked out windows. And then I looked up what that was, and they were like, oh, that's the Army. And then the next day, the Army shows up, and now nobody can go to their houses because I saw those white trucks going and taking the devices. And when they took the devices, they'd leave a black empty box.
Listen, did you notice that she said that these people were the U.S. Army coming to retrieve these smart meters and replace them with black boxes? When looking into this information in detail, the smart meter program was issued by the United States Army and began rolling out smart meters in 2008, according to Smart Energy International. In 2014, 2 additional military facilities or bases, one in Washington and the other one in Monterey, California, joined the $230 million Army Metering Program, also known as AMP. The program is managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Engineering and Support Center. All facilities involved are connected to the Army's enterprise-wide meter data management system. Yeah, this raises questions about the Army's interest in smart meters for residential homes, commercial buildings, and other locations. And they make you pay an arm and a leg just to opt out. Why would the Army want to monitor and control energy usage remotely? There is a reason behind this initiative that they are not disclosing to the public, and that is these smart meters emit millimeter waves, which indicates that they serve as direct energy weapons. Mind you, not everything is a conspiracy, but not everything happens out of pure coincidence either.
I'm just here to make you think.
Yeah, DNA.
It's Dane Calloway. OCO, Freethinkers.